One of the world's top breeders of Dianthus, Selecta 1, has recently announced that the USDA is now allowing them to import unrooted Dianthus cuttings into the U.S. from their farm in Kenya. Before that, due to import regulations dating back, I believe, 70 years, Dianthus had to be produced onshore or they had to endure a one-year quarantine. So there's two reasons for talking Dianthus. Now, as always, I'm not the expert, even though I read that article. So I know a little bit more about Dianthus, but I know who the experts are, and in this case, it's the same guy who brought the Dianthus story to life in that article. He's one of the authors, Mr. Gary Vollmer.
All right, so the idea that we wanted to do, obviously, is as Chris was alluding to, for the past several years, we've certainly seen a lot of activity in Dianthus, and Selecta, a big part of our programs worldwide. And we wanted to kind of talk about what to use, what's out there, what the different forms of Dianthus are in the marketplace, and the different types, both, supply source, seed versus cutting, et cetera, and then also opportunities to create market opportunities and places to sell. So the big questions are, number one is, why Dianthus? So what's special about Dianthus? Well, one, it's a big category. It encompasses numerous species. We have been using and selling Dianthus from the very beginning of the flower trade. The cut carnations have been a backbone. Old school pot carnations were in use. Then along came some perennial Dianthuses, and then the seed industry exploded. Then we've got seed Dianthus, Chinensis types, and interspecifics, et cetera. Barbados, all was there, but it was always kind of sitting in this little small part of the world and never really exploded. But we saw an explosion happening in Europe. Why? Well, high value, low energy, lower cost production. Europe market is all about managing the costs. So early, late shoulder market opportunities, the real meat of what Dianthus can do in the marketplace is it can bring you a product into the market year round, but the biggest opportunity is what we would call the front shoulder, which is basically February, March. That's the core, and then into April and May. And then there's many opportunities to utilize this in different ways. There are holiday opportunities. There are just garden center opportunities. So we wanted to kind of go through these different places where these things can be sold and so forth. So one of the key things with Dianthus is there's just so many different types out there, from cut flowers to potted plants to annual. So a lot of this is designated by use, not necessarily genetics, but we're going to try to talk about it in different types of forms based on use and also sort of the high level supply. As Chris alluded to, why am I talking to you about this from Selecta right now? Well, for many, many years, this project began probably 12 years ago in the attempts to figure out how can we create a sanitation protocol that will meet or beat the standards that are required by USDA so that we could achieve an exemption to ship the cuttings from Kenya. And we did it, that farm in Kenya is NKT certification, high super sanitary farm. And again, it's the largest Dianthus farm on the planet. So it created great opportunities for us to capitalize on the supply chain. It also created opportunities to capitalize on the volume that is being produced. This is a huge market in Europe, huge market, and that is virtually untapped in the US. And I think all the breeding organizations recognize that. And as Chris was saying, as we've seen it, as we've been doing it, we've seen other breeders bringing more of this Dianthus type product into the market because of what we see going on in Europe. Also, at Selecta, there's some extremely powerful, successful marketing programs that are going in Europe on these products. And we'll get in more down that rabbit hole as we progress the conversation. The farm in Kenya that Selecta has is the largest Dianthus farm on the planet. One of the hurdles we had to get into some retail programs is because this is domestic supply and because the market had been relatively controlled, is numerous times I'd have the conversation with growers who are going, well, I would love to put in a program, but I don't see enough units on the dates that I needed to make this program work. So it was chicken and the egg, expensive domestic supply, and you don't want to produce the stock if you don't have the market. So we've been slowly building critical mass in the historical supply of cutting-based Dianthus in the domestic market. But now the opportunity is wide open. We have access to a farm that's producing over 150 million cuttings a year of pot and garden Dianthus alone, not to mention another farm in the cut Dianthus world that we're tapping into as well. So let's talk about how we use it. And then a little bit about the type. Obviously, being Selecta, I'm going to talk a lot about the vegetative material more and target its uses of what we have in our repertoire, but also a lot of opportunities in the seed world as well. But let's go through sort of the history and understand what the Dianthus is and how it's used in the market. So one of the types out there is we've traditionally grown, and I know as a Northwest grower for many years, a big part of our bedding programs, spring bedding programs, was these seed-based garden types, sort of compact bedding plant type Dianthus. There's Chinensis types like Cornet and Parfait, and then specific types like Floralace and Ideal. At Ball, with Pan American Seed being a Ball partner, and they've done a lot of work really to develop this market and the products to support this market. So this is kind of a whole Ball initiative. I'm going to drive the Selecta piece, but I know Pan American is right on the heels with that. And that being said, we talk about, the saying that a rising tide brings all ships up. One of the key pieces in my mind that's bringing the tide up is this new type of Sweet William Barbados types that are being produced, specifically the Pan American varieties. I'm a long fan of old-fashioned Sweet Williams, the old school biennials, tall, kind of lanky, but beautiful bicolor flowers in my garden. But these are so much next level. The full series, their series, they've got multiple colors. The performance is incredible and work in so many markets. So just starting to get it, and I believe this is going to be an important part of this message of how the industry looks at Dianthus with different sets of eyes as we really exploit the opportunities that are in front of us. Then, of course, there's cutting based garden plants, and that encompasses a use breadth that broadens and covers over multiple types genetically. Dianthus breeding has been interspecifically based for quite a while now. And out of that, you bring types, plants that have a certain look or a certain foliage type and so forth. And that's kind of how we've designated historically based on the blood that's going in. This is a, quote, perennial type or a, quote, pot carnation type or what have you. But the bottom line is they are all interspecific from all breeders. It's how we use them, how we position them, and their relative hardiness that defines how they work in the garden. Cut flowers, huge historical traditional cut flower production on this product. A lot of it is offshore, but we're very excited to be partnering with Ball Seed and Selecta to bring, in addition to the Barbados types that Pan American's producing, but bring the green Barbados types, sprays and standard types to the U.S. market. The farm where these cut flowers has been approved, and we're in the final stages of finalizing the paperwork to begin shipping these cuttings into the U.S. market. So we are poised to attack both the cut flower opportunities as well as the pot type opportunities that we have in this as well. So again, this is really kind of new territory for me. I'm really looking forward to working with some of my old colleagues at Ball Seed to get this thing off the ground. Perennial Dianthus is a very important category, probably in use in the U.S. It's hard to identify exactly how it's being sold, but if you look at who's producing it, and from my experience, this is the area where most perennial or most Dianthus are being sold, vegetative Dianthus are being sold in the market as a garden perennial type. A lot of times these are sort of pot carnation type, double flowered carnation type breeding that aren't necessarily fully hardy. And the hardiness ranges in Dianthus from anywhere from the zone 5. We haven't tested further. We're doing tests in Manitoba right now to try to see how far we can push the envelope for hardiness, but we'll know more here in a few weeks. But the idea is that they run from what we know now to be a zone 5 up to 7B with some of the more tender stuff. So they are all, quote, all of this vegetative type are quote, tender perennials. But again, some of them are hardier than others. So we do position them appropriately. And then the huge opportunity and the place where the market has exploded in Europe, incredibly over the last 10 years, is in this concept of pot carnations. And it's exploded for a multitude of reasons. One is the indoor pot market has been dominated by a handful of products that have been the mainstays forever and ever. And the indoor garden, or the indoor floral department has always kind of had that same look. You've got your cyclamen, you've got a couple of clanchas, you've got some pot mums and some foliage plants and some knickknacks and paddywhacks. But the bottom line is, Dianthus has not been a core part of that look indoor for a long time, way back to the early pot carnation days in the 60s, 70s, where pot carnations were kind of coming into the market. That opportunity is where I think that the biggest chances we have to develop markets, because it's developing a market that we're not into yet. It's a brand new market. And this is something that's opportunity for guys that are traditional potted plant growers to lower energy cost inputs and broaden their perspective, and then also target holidays. But it's also an opportunity for the growers that are not necessarily indoor growers, that are bedding plant growers. We have seen, I work with poinsettias a lot, so we certainly see in the world of poinsettias, both the potted plant producers producing poinsettias, as well as the bedding plant producers kind of putting on their potted plant hat briefly to produce poinsettias. The idea is we can see this extend. We have seen the explosion in the last few years of houseplants, foliage plants. And it's hard to walk a greenhouse in this country today, a large commercial grower that doesn't have at least a couple of bays of foliage plants in there, because they see the opportunity to get into that indoor footprint at the retailer. So this is an opportunity to expand your indoor footprint as a potted plant producer, an indoor producer, and also get some products into indoor programs, and also maybe non-traditional indoor footprints, as we'll talk about market opportunities here shortly. So choosing the right dianthus for the schedule. A lot of issues with this will be addressed in webinar 2, because dianthus is simple and complicated. It's simple in the fact that it's not a long day, short day obligate plant. It's complex in the fact that it dramatically changes its growth timing to flower based on the amount of light and the temperatures that it's being produced at. Also, day length is a factor as well. So there's regionality, seasonality, how you grow it, what containers you're growing in, and then what your target market is. So we're not going to go too far down that rabbit hole today. That's a lot of what we're going to talk about in webinar 2, and we'll have a couple of more teasers to kind of get you down that road here in a minute. So regionality, dianthus is, like I said, energy input responsive to scheduling. If you give it heat and light, or calories overall, if you want to look at it sort of a broad approach, the more calories you give it, the faster it is to flower. Higher moles, shorter crop times. They can be produced everywhere. We have customers producing these successfully from northern Canada all the way down to Homestead, often produced with no or very, very little heat in the greenhouse, maybe a little bit of rooting in opportunities. And also, is this photograph at the bottom here, you see they can be used in combination. These are some fall fall planters, autumn friends from Selecta, where they're exploring it, and it's mixed with heuchera and grasses. This is a product that can hit the market year-round. There are obviously bigger opportunities, and I think the biggest opportunities are early spring opportunities, because it's something where we want to create a sale. We want to create something that we can get more money for. A classic scenario as a bedding plant producer in my past is you always want to have these sales in late February, March, and the products that were driving that in volume were pansies and primula calls. Both these are relatively inexpensive, low energy crops to produce, very similar scheduling that we're talking about with these dianthus products. But the big difference is those products didn't have the kind of legs and shelf life. They'd also been so produced at such high volume that they became commoditized, and the value in the market is reduced. So it's very difficult. It's a difficult equation when you have something that is vulnerable to the rains and or the snows and the cold and all the poor conditions in the garden center, combined with the fact that the pricing of this has been commoditized. It creates this opportunity, and this was kind of the impetus to this explosion in Europe, was that we want to find something that we can get more money for in this front shoulder. But again, because of the nature of this product, you can produce it as a spring bedding plant for late spring sales and summer sales. It can be produced for fall sales. We have cutting supply year-round and at Selecta, and there is opportunities year-round. The big one, the first one that we want to tackle, is this early spring window, and then the spring holidays. So again, just not to go too far down the rabbit hole, this little chart, and this is in, we have this on the website. We have even a better scheduling tool that basically takes this and makes it in with a pull down tool. So I encourage you to look at that. But this is just the beginning of the conversation about where you are, or more realistically, how you grow. And then we've kind of packaged our genetics into buckets just to kind of help you understand the differences in scheduling. But again, very different types of growing regimes or temperature regimes that we have here. And this doesn't even begin to bring into the opportunities that we have regionally with the different light levels. One of the things we're doing this year, we're continuing to work with our customers and to gain understanding with surveys. We know, when you bought, what you bought, but we don't know when you sold it. We don't know how you grew it. So the idea is we want to get real world feedback from growers so that we can get this scheduling down precise. And that's what, to get into this world where we hit Valentine's Day dead on, we hit Mother's Day dead on, et cetera, where we have to hit these specific dates, we want to really get crunchy on getting this information on scheduling. But again, more of that in webinar 2. So best products for early spring sales. Now, obviously, a lot of breeding in this arena from many breeders. I'm going to focus on, going forward, on just the Selecta material because A, it's what we are selling and it's also what I'm most familiar with. But so again, if you look at the early spring products, the big target, the big hitter is Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is that transition moment when we go from the garden centers cracking open the doors, starting to look at spring a little bit. The bulbs, forcing bulbs are starting to show up. The violas and pansies and the primulas and a few other things are starting to show up at the retailers, often sold in the vestibule or sometimes bravely into the gardens. But the big opportunity to really get in front of the consumer is the Valentine's Day message itself. So again, we're going to talk about specific Valentine's Day programs and then also early garden opportunities. So in Selecta, Selecta has been just the market leader in Europe on pot carnations, and they've been leading the charge with some branded products. And these are excellent, high-performing products that, based on the fact that they're so easy to produce or high-quality production, that they've invested in these marketing programs with it. And so we are piggybacking on that in North America on a few varieties. One is this I Love You. This is a very interesting variety. It is fully doubled. It's very early to flower. It's very compact. It also has this beautiful, as we call, YTT or pretty fade or whatever you want to call it, but basically it opens this sort of rosy pink and fades to a pure white. Long life on these flowers, extremely long life. So another nice thing about it too, with these guys, you sell it for Valentine's Day. People keep it on the windowsill and they can plant it out in the garden even before frost is over, but once the ground thaws effectively, and then they'll continue to produce through the summer and make a really pretty plant going into the fall. Depending if it's really hot in the summers, they might go dead green in the heat of the summer, but they'll bounce back again when we hit the fall. But again, for Valentine's, we have two programs, branded programs, and more on that as we get into retail opportunities with I Love You and Early Love. Then if we want to get into series, one of our series that's our top selling series worldwide and our top selling series in North America right now is the Oscar family. It's a true series. It is, as we often see in the case of like with garden mums, the real uniform families are genetic siblings, and that's what these are. All of these are sport-based. So if you can see this picture here, this guy's got a bunch of varieties, and they're all exactly the same age. These are pictures below from the trial, and you can see they're all same age plants, and this doesn't even show all of them. But the idea is they're super uniform. But what's also really nice about them is they're very compact and super free branching, so they're very easy for an inexperienced grower to produce. They don't require a lot of pinching, don't require growth regulators. They can be grown cool. They're also excellent garden performing and continuous flowering. So these are really nice, again, early enough to time and with the appropriate color range to make Valentine's products.
Gary, I popped in because we have a question.
Fire away.
Judy wants to know, we're talking for Valentine's Day before we go on early spring. As an indoor gift plant, about how long will the flowers look good? I guess we could look at it two ways, for the retailer and then for the end consumer. What kind of value are they going to get?
That's an excellent question. And what we believe and what we see is that we can get at least, depending, obviously conditions inside are going to be an issue, but in relatively bright indoor conditions, normal temperatures, as long as it's not too hot, 4 to 5 weeks off of these plants of still looking good. And then again, you can move them right outside too. That's the beauty of these things. If you put them in a bright window, a cool bright window, you can get even more.
Yeah, and the cooler you can keep them, the better they last. Also, you mentioned with the I Love You series, YTT. I know what it means, but tell everybody what YTT means, for those who don't know.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Let's see if you know what it means.
Those that aren't old, like Chris and I. YTT refers to yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And the idea is what it does is it speaks to, and we have this in a lot of different varieties across multiple species, is the idea is there's a color shift as the flowers age. The beauty of this one is they age, but they last so long. So you end up with this really long-lived white flower that it fades to. It doesn't start to, they always fear when you fade to white is things start to go brown or yellow and the flowers get ugly, but these stay bright white, so really break through. The other thing that's important when you talk about Valentine's Day about durability is why, again, go back to the sort of core premise, why Dianthus? Well, one of the things that Dianthus can do is, for the grocery accounts particularly, is they can be shipped in a box and run through a produce distribution center at very cold temperatures in a box. A lot of species can't do that. So having that opportunity for the product to run through an existing retailer's distribution chain is a very, very important aspect of this, and part of the process that's made it work so well as it's exploded in Europe as well.
Still needing to protect from ethylene though, and I don't know whether we'll get into that at any point in.
Ethylene is a bugger, but the beauty of ethylene is the colder you go, the less you get. So the bottom line is keep these things cold in a box, and you're fine. Getting warm in a box, then okay, you got some ethylene issues.
All right, good point. Last quick question. Some fellow named Craig, we may both know, what is and I missed you mentioning this term, what is a sport-based series? Asks Craig.
Oh, okay. So basically what a sport-based series means is the original variety was bred. And if you look at this particular photograph, the original variety, I believe, would be the 4th from the left. Everything else out of this was a mutation that occurred typically in production. In the case of this Oscar, there are some growers that are growing literally millions of these things in the Netherlands. And so the breeder walks these crops when they flower and then makes selections out of these. And so the idea of a sport-based mutation is that the genetic foundation is the same as the parent. It's the sort of the premise in the poinsettia world. Historically, a quote series of poinsettias, red, white, pink, marble, are all sports of the red. Now that arena has changed dramatically genetically here in the last few years, but that's what this means. And what that usually brings is extreme uniformity. Uniformity in how the plants behave, timing, flower size, etc.
See, so Craig, in other words, it has nothing to do with being in your favorite team colors.
No, this is not the.
Thank you for clearing that up. All right,
sorry, there are no green or blue versions of this out there. We do have a green in the cut flower types.
There you go. Let's move on to spring then, Gary. Thank you.
So anyway, early spring opportunities. Again, you start looking at this is the lines between perennial and annual get blurred, and I think my experience in my previous life was we often positioned them as perennial in the early years because we got paid more. We got a few more pennies a pot, and it made sense to make it into perennial. And I think a lot of it kind of landed in that perennial market in the U.S., whereas in Europe, they're sold as sort of a garden plant that, oh, maybe it's perennial, cool, but not the primary message. But we have both opportunities to use that as a premium annual and then also as guard. One of the new things that's coming from us, we've had this product called Dianthus, and it's this cushion type. Now we've upgraded the genetics to this new Pashmina. And these are very low growing, free flowering, spreading, good perennial, and just have this really nice sort of mounds of color. So again, it's a fun thing. It can get to market early spring, super durable, and it will continue to bloom and fill out for the consumer. Traditional, again, I've been involved with Dianthus for quite a few years, and what we've seen in the market is the traditional concept of what a quote perennial Dianthus was like the old fire witch, things like that. These were kind of known as being almost cottage garden type plants, open wispy type plants, also known to have a bloom window. This was your shot. It bloomed, and then it was just some kind of a green plant in the garden. What more modern perennial types from Selecta and other breeders is these will continuously put more flowering up longer. We've gotten earliness in the timing, so they're flowering quicker. We've also been able to add a lot of remontancy or continuous blooming response in these genetically. So they've become very different. And then also what we've been able to do is, again, I'd say we, as I'm talking to the industry, not just Selecta, but the industry as a whole, has been able to bring double flower types and single flower types into this true hardy zone 5 type perennial Dianthus. So it's genetically the world has exploded, and we want to capitalize on the opportunity with our supply chain. The breeding is outstanding. I'm always psyched about to see what's new stuff's coming. We have some great stuff coming. One of the opportunities, again, when we talked about the Oscars as being a sport-based family, this is another sport-based family. It's called DiaDeur. And what these are all, again, double flowered. These are sort of medium vigor, double flowered, but they're very, very fragrant. And again, being sport-based, they're super uniform, so they can be mixed and matched in containers, and then they work really good, both as a sort of premium pot sale or as a garden plant sale. It not necessarily a hardy perennial would be considered a candy perennial. But again, this DiaDeurs, they are really nice to grow, very easy to grow, look really good early flowering. So it's a great, if you want a sort of pot carnation look with the fragrance and everything for the early spring window, this is a good product as well. Can be made for Valentine's Day. So we get into spring sales, main spring, we're talking April, May. We're really looking at Mother's Day and Easter opportunities. Again, Mother's Day probably being the bigger one. And so there's some really good products, including branded products and some new genetics that I think are ideal to hit the Mother's Day, Easter markets. And then there's more expansion of other genetics that will work into this spring garden opportunity, both with a perennial hat or with an annual hat on them. One of the cool things that's new for us that's really exciting is the Capitan family. And these are larger plants Really good for like a 2.5 quart up to like a 14-inch patio pot. They are beautiful, big flowered, great bicolors, and then on longer stems, so they literally can cut and make small vase plants out of them as well. So this is sort of a high utility. This says coming soon, but they're available now. We have a lot of trials going on out there now, and if you want to join us at CAST this year, we'd love to show them to you. But we're really excited about this one. We think this has a great opportunity to attack multiple retail windows, and specifically because of the colors and the beauty of this thing, is we think we could make some really nice sort of premium Mother's Day gift items out of this. Again, you get into spring garden types, the sort of traditional double flower carnation, our SuperTrouper line, which is then the mainstay of our carnation program for years, or carnation type Dianthus program for years. Medium vigor, wide array of colors. Again, it's used in indoor programs. It's also used as tender perennials, and in the South, it's sold often as a premium annual. So again, really nice series to work with there. New for us this year, we're really excited about this one as a North American market. This is like a SuperTrouper type of product, a true pot carnation type, fully double flowered. Again, in a specific breeding, obviously, but more of a carnation look. But this is core colors and a bigger footprint. These are like perfect for your 2.5 quart mainstream retail programs. Very nice. You can see in the trial, they flower very, very close in timing. They're very similar in habits, all double flowered, so they make a really nice sort of core color gallon program. So we're really excited about this one. Super good opportunity, I think, here in North America as a garden plant. So now we've talked about sort of the when. These are the seasons and sort of a picture, but what we really want to do is to get into the seasonality, we have to figure out how to bring the retailers into the fold. And that was one of the key things as this took off in Europe. The retail programs were integral in getting the retailers to buy in. And once the retailers bought in, then the consumers took over. And then the consumption drove continuous sales and continuous growth of the programs. So what we want to do is talk about sort of some of the core differences, indoor programs versus garden center programs. Indoor programs are kind of different for a lot of the growers that Ball works with, and a lot I work with, because it's a different set of merchants, and it's a different realm. I work with potted plant producers this is their arena all the time. But getting indoor, there are indoor opportunities, I think, in all retail outlets. But getting into that opportunity depends on a lot of times the relationship you have with the buyers. So again, there's a huge footprint. There's grocery stores, there's independent stores, there's box stores, there's warehouse stores like the Costco, Sam's Club, and then online sales. So there's incredible opportunities to exploit this as a indoor floral product. And again, the online sale, don't think that, oh yeah, everybody says online this, online that, blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line, these things are durables, all get out in the box and shipped like a dream. So I think this could be a downright perfect online holiday opportunity as well. Garden center programs, as we get into annual perennial programs in the true traditional garden center sense. So indoor programs, so again, huge program, huge opportunities in Europe, just starting. There's a couple of growers that are actually doing this very successfully in Canada with a couple of retailers up there, and we're seeing some traction starting in the Northeast in the US and a few other markets as indoor programs are beginning to take off, and they're being very, very successful. But what we're looking at is what can we do to drive this? So we're looking at driving the branded program. We're looking at, this is a mock-up of a display product that we will send to retailers. And so basically it's a package you put together, and then you've got a nice sort of temporary display. This and other opportunities to support the retailers for the indoor program. Again, like I alluded to before, scheduling is the key piece, and we're doing a ton of work on culture on these and scheduling. And again, more in webinar 2. So this is and also I just want to shout out to Stephanie Vincente, our marketing manager, who helped me put this together. She just did a great job of photographically getting my messages, and then also putting a really pretty presentation together. So thank you, Stephanie. But this is, I think, an excellent photograph that just kind of shows you sort of an indoor floral, small indoor floral display. Orchids. You see orchids, you see a gerb, you see a clancho, a cyclamen, maybe seasonally, mums here or there, some violets in the corner, but no dianthus. But you go to Europe and you'll see dianthus on these displays all the time, all year round. So we want to become a product that is going to be on this table. This is a small one, but again, depending on your grocery retailer, we want to be on this table. and part of these everyday programs. We also want to, like we showed at that cutout, double down on holidays and provide the tools for the retailer and the grower so that we can double down, put this little display up by the tiller and really capitalize on it. To see this happening in Europe, you see the top selling variety from Selecta Pink Kisses at retailers from gas stations to grocery stores, often sold in a little display at the end of the till next to the candy bars. And very much making the opportunity for a consumer to pick it up freely and easily, and they do, thus making it super, super successful. We need to create the tools and the concepts to help our growers and our retailers achieve the same goals. Again, holiday rack displays, signage, rack signs, pallet displays. There's a lot of things that we're working on, concepts that we're working on for different kinds of programs, and we are open to talk to anybody about what we can do to capitalize on this opportunity. So box stores, again, a holiday rack display. So typically in a box store, you know, when I talk about box store, I'm talking about, you know, really the in our market, there's the Walmart, which is kind of grocery-ish, but then there's the true home improvement, the Depots and Lowe's of the world, the Menards and the folks like that. And what we want to be able to do is if you look at those indoor programs, they're typically succulents and some foliage and foliage from fours up to some floor plants and all that, and very little if any color at all in there. Oftentimes it's the grafted cactus, about the only color components in those displays. And that's okay. Those growers have got a niche and they've got a footprint and they're exploring that. But what we want to be able to do is to still get indoors in these home improvement warehouses. And that's why we're looking at these kind of rack displays and programs that would put this in actionality, front and center in the store, focusing on the holidays. One of the things is the warehouse stores, which is, I think, one of the greatest untapped opportunities we have. It's a dynamic way to sell, but things that sell well sell very well at these outlets. And I do believe, based on the reality of you know, put it in and you know, it's effectively a virtual guaranteed sale, durable indoor programs, things that ship well and hold up well in the store to give you that shelf life to get sold. That's an important part of this, not to mention the opportunity to exploit these in multiple different types of containers and multi-packs and large containers as components and mixes and so forth. So I think there's huge opportunities in the warehouse stores. And again, online sales, online producers, we should look at this as an opportunity because this is going to ship in color, where a lot of time you're shipping things a little bit on the greener side because they don't ship well. This can ship in color. So that's the indoor programs. So garden center programs, again, what we're trying to do is to differentiate and create a little bit higher value equation. Again, like you look at pansies and primula for the seasonality for that early shoulders. We want an alternative to go into the program as a species, and again, you can exploit this with multiple types, from the pack types all the way up through, you know, gallon types and beyond, you know, bigger containers that we can put earlier season, higher value, more durable in the weather products out there. Not to mention just a great show. Shelf life, that's so important for retailers and more and growers, and as more and more retailers are becoming pay by scan based, it's super, super important the growers have shelf life on the product so they don't have to write the credits. So there's, again, lots of things that we can bring as a genus, as a whole category, Dianthus, to help resolve some of these retail issues. So in the perennial world, there are some retailers that have really done a good job of really taking advantage of breeding in Dianthus. Others, it's just another part of a very complex collection of perennials. And perennial displays are often sort of, I won't say hodgepodgey, but they're often just a lot of different things showing up, all mixed together. And sometimes they're very, very showy at point of sale, sometimes they're not. But what we can do with this is make a category, make a table, make a Dianthus table, and have multiple types of products in your perennial program, singles and double flowers, quarts and 2.5s, really great opportunities to take advantage of these things, the species in these type of programs at retail. So again, even though the perennials are a place where I think we're selling the most here in the States, I don't think we're doing it justice based on the opportunities that the genetics are presenting us. So that's pretty much, again, sort of a poke at what we think we can do in the marketplace with the products, and then again, opportunities with retailers. We are continuing to work with retailers and growers and researchers and so forth. We have a lot of things going on. I wanted to kind of go through some of the tools to show the commitment that we have to this program. So if you look at the Selecta Dianthus website, we have all kinds of links to bring you to information, a lot of scheduling tools and pot size recommendations and landscape uses. So it's very interactive. A lot of the information we're sharing here today is available through these various click-through links on our website. So a lot of work has been gone into the web presence for this product. We have a lot of work been done in what's recommendation and scheduling, and we have some culture work going right now. We have some incredibly exciting culture research that's being done right now with our research team in West Chicago, and then also with some growers, looking at some different types of growth regulations to exploit opportunities to enhance branching and tweak coloring and pot fill scheduling and all that. So there's a lot of work, culture work being done to help us really dial in the culture and the scheduling piece of this. So big commitment at multiple levels for Ball and Selecta on this part of the project. We have this very cool selection tool that basically, go onto the website, you just pick out when you want it, how you're growing it, and then the pot size, and then it'll give you a general idea. We do want to continue to expand on this tool and enhance this tool as we get more and more. The more real world feedback we get from growers and how these things are working and scheduling, the more we can enhance this tool and make it even more refined to particular growers so that they can go in with full confidence they're going to nail the timing. Culturally, it's not complicated. And like I said, Webinar 2 will go down that rabbit hole. But right now, it's just kind of nice to see that there are great tools on our website to help you with this. And the Retail Showcase shows up all these different things that are available. This is artwork, and then things that are available, and then identified what is available as far as tags, and also what is available as artwork that you can then use for printing various different components of this. But again, a nice tool, a nice easy way to get access to what we have available. Trade media advertising, we've made a major commitment on our supply chain, and then also on the product itself. Initially on the supply chain as we've developed and create this new supply chain, but more and more as we will focusing on the product. So a lot of commitment financially and work in the trades. So we have good exposure to growers and retailers who read through the trades. Articles. This webinar, articles in the Grower Talks. We'll be doing again, part 2 of the webinar, we'll be doing a talk at Cultivate. These are all commitments that we're making to keep this in the forefront and to keep bringing the growers and the retailers the most updated information we have on exactly how to make these things work and exactly what tools we have to support these programs. So just an incredible amount of support from Vol, and specifically, again, shout out to Stephanie Vicente, our marketing manager, who's just been working her rear end off getting this stuff together and doing a super job. Social media, we are doing more and more work with social media, and we'll continue to do social media. This is grower-based social media targets, but we will evolve and add a lot of consumer-based social media work on this as well. So this is, I haven't worked on a project with Vol that has been so top to bottom, A to Z, committed to all the developments of the messaging and the marketing opportunities out there, from cultural marketing of how to grow it all the way up through retail and consumer marketing. So this is really a fun thing to see us going. So before we go, I wanted to do a call out. I'm a member of the Vol Horticultural Tech team. And Vollmer, as a company, several years ago, made the commitment to really bring our tech opportunities and support to growers to a very much a next level. And so thus was born the Vol Tech team. And there are multiple ways to get a hold of our tech team. And this is an encompassing team with members from multiple parts of Vol horticulture worldwide, seed guys and overseas production guys. All of us are all participating as a member of the team. And information and challenges come to us, and the appropriate parties put the 2 cents worth. If one of us sees something that we recognize, we pipe in. The other thing, Vol has a full operational pathology lab, top level pathology lab. Virology through mycology. You have disease issues, we have lab services that can support that and help diagnose it, and then also obviously with the tech team provide you support. So the resources that Vol has put forward to support technical, and that includes Selecta product in North America, is huge. It's very exciting to be part of that. And again, just a call out to the rest of my team members, Bill Calkins, who organizes this a lot. This has really been a great project, a fun project, and the amount it's being used is clear that it's a tool that the industry needed, and we're happy to provide. Additional to that, as members of the tech team, but also specific to Offshore Plant and Selecta, myself and then my partner in crime, James Dukas, we are the tech support guys for the Selecta brand. So you can feel free to reach out to either of us directly.